Beyond.
And
it's Beyond, yes. We're back once again. Welcome to episode 529. My name is Max Scoville, and I'm joined yet again by Brian Altano.
Everyone's here, and we couldn't be happier.
Casey DeFritas.
I don't have anything clever to say.
What are you doing here then? No, I'm just kidding. Brian never has anything good to say. And Marty Sleva.
I've been happier.
Oh, are you
like Brian said, we couldn't be happier, but
okay.
I think all of us can remember moments in our lives that were better. Like you got married.
Okay,
all right.
Yeah, that was years ago.
Is this better than your wedding?
So like on average, the whole table collectively kind of a good 7.5 out of 10. Is that about right?
I would. That's where rent don't buy.
Good,
that's
good old.
where
Let's
we are.
yeah. Well, luckily
that's what a 7.5.
It's a free.
You can't rent things anymore.
Yeah.
That's what we used to say under every IGN review. Rent don't buy.
Yeah. So Casey, we had you on the show last week to talk about Monster Hunter World, which you were still kind of under embargo about. Second half of the show, you were going to do like a deep dive. We're going to let you go nuts and talk about all the weird horned beasts and things in there. This was like an incredible weekend for games.
Yes.
This was a wonderful, just one of those times where it's just like a perfect storm of all the good stuff. We had Shadow of the Colossus, Dragon Ball FighterZ, Monster Hunter World, Celeste.
Well, we have Shadow of the Colossus because we're lucky.
Yeah.
Right.
But not most people are still like, you son of a bitch. Well, actually, no.
Right.
You've all had it for decades.
You've all had it
anyway,
for 13
that
years.
comes
You've
out.
had it in
That
you
comes
all
out
along.
what today? As of this,
No, that comes next week.
Next week.
Yeah,
okay.
We had it quite a bit.
Okay, we had it. Sorry, I feel bad. We had our anyway. It was still a good week. There was the Sea of Thieves
week for
beta.
us.
Yeah, seriously, it was awesome.
And I don't know if you were in San Francisco. It was sunny out, so
It was.
that's all very good. And then
I saw zero fecal matter walking
Yeah,
around.
that's a good. I saw a ton of vomit on Bart. But anyway,
Rare week, guys.
let's get to the games. We're gonna second half of the show deep dive on Monster Hunter World. So if you're interested in that, stay tuned. Also talk a little bit about Dragon Ball FighterZ. But in the meantime, Shadow of the Colossus. Marty, you reviewed it.
I did. I would say what my score is, but Dan and I are oscillating a little bit. But the score is very high nines.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah. This is incredible. I think all of us have had a chance to play it, or at least we played it, Casey, for 2 hours on a stream. But this, first off, might be the best looking remaster ever made. And in doing so, I think it's one of the best looking PS4 games ever made.
Wow.
And I don't know, would you guys agree with me?
I would go so
yeah,
far
for
as to
sure.
say this is the best looking console game I've ever seen.
Yeah.
I think this is just staggering visuals.
It looks how I remember it looking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to debate you guys a little bit because I totally agree. I played some of this on my Pro this weekend, and it's absolutely stunning. But it's also not doing nearly as much as a game like Horizon or Uncharted.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah.
So for what it is presenting you, yes, absolutely, this is a stunning technical achievement. But I would say in terms of like best looking video game, I don't know. I mean, it's like a really busy painting versus a minimalist painting, right?
I think it's best looking in that it is just at face value looking at it.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously Horizon has a lot more going on. This is an incredibly sparse world. It's a game that came out, 15, 20 years ago.
2005.
Yeah.
1981.
Hard to believe it's been 200 years.
2005.
2005. At least I said that
right?
several times in my review, so I hope I was right.
Yeah. But Casey, this is like one of your favorite games ever, right?
Yes, I absolutely love the Shadow of the Colossus. I know I mentioned this last week, and I'm sorry for repeating myself, but
all we
when
do here.
They announced Shadow of the Colossus in Monster Hunter World right after the
same E3 conference.
Yeah, the same E3 conference, and I was sitting in the audience by myself and had no one to like look to and get excited about, and I was really sad about that. But
I feel like
When was this?
this year.
this year at E3,
Where were all of us?
not with me.
Where are all your friends here at IGN? We all get excited for the E3.
No, I mean, we all, when we do like E3, we're at the war room at E3 and everything gets announced. There's always like that one like stray like, woo, when something gets announced and everyone else is like, who said that?
Let me-
Yeah, they're like
let me
Danganronpa
clarify.
phone edition, and one person's like, yeah.
That was Andrew. Yeah, that was Andrew.
Let me clarify. I was in the audience in the theater.
She was actually
wow.
at the she was
Yeah.
covering it at
Okay,
the show.
so a
whereas
few
we were-
people probably went woo.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
no one did that for Monster Hunter. I
No.
was very disappointed.
No, but Shadow of the Colossus is like, obviously people adore this game. I think one of the big complaints is, the original is technically impressive for the time, but a lot of it hasn't held up. The frame rate's pretty bad. The camera will fight with you.
Yeah.
And the controls have sort of aged strangely.
Yeah, the original or the last remake sort of carried over a bunch of that baggage with it.
Yeah.
And it's, I don't know. I'm trying to remember how many games have been like straight up remade twice. I don't know if we
Yeah.
really want to call. I mean, the last one was sort of like an up-resed port.
I feel weird calling this a remaster because last generation we had, like, you know how we have the Nathan Drake collection on
Yeah.
PS4. Those feel like those remasters are like they look a little bit better than
Yep.
the original, whereas this just looks remade from
This
the
is
ground
this
up.
is
Yeah.
a new engine. This
It's
is
a brand new
entirely
engine.
yeah.
And so you mentioned those problems with, like the original's an incredible game, but it was ahead of its time. It was streaming in all this information in the world, which meant the frame rate took a hit. The frame rate is incredible in this. It's locked in at 30 on a regular PS4, at 60 on a PS4 Pro.
Yep.
Looks phenomenal, never chugs, even when you get to some of the later Colossi, which are just these massive hulking beasts with 1,000 moving parts. The draw distance has completely been fixed in terms of the second you ride out of the main shrine, you can see all the way to the end of the map. And it doesn't feel like stuff sort of popping in. It just feels naturally like you are going to get to that temple or you're going to get to that mountain.
And I will say that like the sort of design philosophy behind this game, it's sort of in the way we think about I don't know, like the Nemesis system in Shadow of War, where I'm like, surely everyone will do this, and then no one did it. This game, we've seen large scale boss fights since then. I mean, obviously the sort of apex of that was a game like this. The old God of War games are really sort of like, oh, I've been fighting in this man's hand the entire time. But this game still holds up in that way that you are an ant on like the back of an elephant. Like, and a lot of games try to show you scale in terms of you're fighting something massive and gigantic and you don't know how to take it down. But I think this is still the king. Like it's still sort of like not like unsurpassable in sort of the way it brings that in. And also, and we'll get into this more, but the kind of emotional weight that comes with riding and defeating these like living beasts, these walking, breathing, screaming landscapes.
Yes.
Yeah, they rolled a. Go ahead.
For how little dialogue there is in Shadow of the Colossus, it's still one of my favorite stories. from
Absolutely.
Well, less is
in a
more.
game.
Yeah.
It's a weird argument against voice acting.
Yeah. Yeah, because
know,
the only
in the
voice
way
we
some
have
of
is
Zeldas
of weird Dormand. Like,
Yeah, well, you get those people that are like, whoa, blah, 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 blah. Like, all right, that's,
So when I say best looking game, I do one detraction. I really wish they hadn't gone with the papyrus font. I feel like they could have just
font's got to go,
be
man.
foncist.
yeah,
really gotta go.
But no, I mean, really, I always love how sparse the story is and how it doesn't just like greet you with like a wall of exposition and explain what everything is and what's going on. It kind of lets you figure it out, and that's really. I mean, again, there's that show don't tell logic for movies and for good writing and in more kind of non-interactive storytelling. But with interactive storytelling, like how do you explain to the player they need to go do something without being like follow the blinking dot? You know,
Yeah.
Yeah.
this is the history of this world.
When we were playing it on the stream, Casey, it was one of those things where like the memories were just flooding back in terms of how you actually beat these things, because that's like the primary sort of thing pushing against you in the gameplay is you see a monster. It's easy to get to the monsters, but then it's like, well, what do I do?
Right.
How do I get up there when I can't? And if you know how to do that, like I was able to get through the game in about 6 hours. Because I remembered most of them. I think there was like 2 of them I ended up looking up. But that being said, that didn't detract at all from the enjoyment and the thrill and the like terror of clinging onto the side of something 100 feet up, and you see that grip meter slowly going down. You're like, oh, am I gonna be able to make it to the next platform?
I mean, this is gonna sound weird, but this game almost prototyped Uncharted in the way that like you'll walk into a big canyon in Uncharted and you're like, how do I get to the top of that mountain? And here you scale that in the same way, and then you kill it.
Yeah.
Which is like really cool. It's really, I mean, we're kind of talking in broad strokes about this game. But if you've never played it before, like effectively it's, because I know many of you haven't, who probably PS4 might be your first PlayStation system. It's effectively the story of a boy who has to save a girl who's in a coma by going out into the world and killing 15, 20, whatever it is, 16 gigantic monsters.
I mean, and
that's it.
They take kind of the role of they're both your only enemies, and they're also the bosses, and they're also set pieces, and they're also puzzles. Like there's so much going on with these things, and it's the scale of it is really incredible.
Huge.
That's him.
But it is really funny that we haven't seen more of this kind of get borrowed from. I mean, there's little bits of it in Monster Hunter, for instance. Zelda, I feel like, has a bit with the Divine Beasts. More recently, Dragon's Dogma was like, hey, you can climb these huge things.
Well, Dragon's Dogma was also made by Capcom as well.
Yeah.
Different, not the same teams, but
That totally seems like a like thing that Japan sort of clung to.
that was one of the things that. So in Dragon's Dogma, you can climb the monsters, and that was a thing that Monster Hunter actually took after Dragon's Dogma came out.
Oh, interesting. I had no idea.
It was so funny though playing both of these this weekend, because we'll talk about Monster Hunter World later, but like the the sort of sensation and feeling that taking down a big hunt in Monster Hunter was so different than what the feeling you get when you take down a Colossi, because when you take down a Colossi, there's no triumphant fanfare.
Yeah, no.
You don't get a stat screen where you have this many XP and this much money. You're met with silence.
Yeah.
The music fades and just leaves, and then you're just left there like, well, this thing's just
You know,
gushing out
like
blood.
murder.
Yeah.
I mean, like, think of the difference in like killing an enemy in, I don't know, The Last of Us versus like, I don't know, Crash Bandicoot or something.
Right. Yeah.
You know, it's like it's a different experience. The tone is everything. But
Yeah, I
I
think.
also-
Well, no, go for it.
Oh no, I just wanted to mention that it is a remake. There is some new stuff in it as well.
Yeah.
Like Marty and I, when we were playing on the stream, we randomly came across a barrel from The Last Guardian
Yeah.
and some weird sparkling coin.
Yeah,
Whoa.
we're trying to figure out what these
Still don't know what that
sparkling
is.
coins are all about, because we've found a bunch of them, but we don't know what they do.
Yeah.
They're not linked to the time attack stuff. They're not linked to the sort of the optional items you can get, which are still in the game, like the parachute, or
that's
the
so
bomb
cool.
arrows, or the thunder javelin.
do we think they're maybe going to add DLC?
I mean, my thing is, or if because there was always rumors of that there was a
Microtransactions?
there was a 17th Colossi that was left on the cutting room floor, and so part of me is like, is that
Bring it
in
back.
the game?
Is
Which
it
hopefully
Trico?
we'll know
Or
by the time. If I have to kill Trico, that's
Don't
not
make
gonna be
me kill
great.
Trico.
No.
Unless it's that mean Trico, like the weird
I
the
don't
thunder
like that
one. I
mean
didn't like
Trico.
that.
He was being controlled. It wasn't his fault.
I don't know
Yeah,
about that. I think
should
he had.
kill him.
He had
People
You don't
said-
think
Kill
he
that
was
big
mean?
dog.
I think
No,
he
people
had
said-
some say in it.
I mean, people said that about Son of Sam, and he was a serial killer because
Yeah.
he said his dog was telling him to do it.
Yeah,
But
that's
he's still a
true.
bad man.
He was not being. Yeah, that was a walk, but you're right.
Yeah.
So one thing I want to point out is that even if you have played this game backwards and forwards, there's a bunch of stuff in here to really, I think, add value to it. The camera mode is incredibly in depth.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like they keep adding new features every time they add one of these in a PlayStation game. And in this case, it's like, there's like parts of the camera I don't even know what they are. It's like the verve or something. And you're
There's also some options when you
tension.
play on Pro, correct? Like in terms of like you get to pick.
Yeah, like frame rate
Cinematic.
or yeah.
Which is like, it always feels like such a difficult decision when I'm handed that at the beginning of a game now. I wish I just want both.
Yeah,
you know?
it's such a confusing, because we did a graphics comparison of the original 2005 game and then what it looks like in performance mode and what it looks like in cinematic mode. And it's one of those where like cinematic mode and performance mode look different, but it's not like that's better than that one. I think it's totally do you want it to
yeah.
run at 60 or you?
Yeah, it totally comes down to the kind of people who are like, do you want that real view thing on your
Yeah.
TV, or do you want to watch like a film movie?
Yeah.
But it's really interesting that with all the giant bosses we've taken down for decades in video games, that like their deaths aren't humanized in the same way that they are in this game. Like
Sure.
this game really makes you feel something. And I saw a lot of people tweeting over the weekend about the difference between that and Monster Hunter, because there's specifically like, I think it's like there's a sorrow to this game, which is not really a great word when people are describing like video games.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
that's
Fun?
Is it
Oh,
fun?
It's got sorrow.
yeah, it's got some sorrow in it. Like you'll
The mood
weep.
is just melancholy.
Yeah,
the
it's
entire
somber
time.
and
Yeah.
But it's a really fun game.
yeah, it really is.
Also, side note, Brian, I don't know if you noticed, there's a huge kind of like way you can like track your progress. It'll give you like your time and everything, your stats. There's a little thing on there for horse stunts,
Oh yeah.
and it'll
Yeah.
keep track of
I was
exactly
seeing
how.
Sam Claiborne do some horse stunts.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
If you want to get just buck wild there and do some real funny goofs.
Nature's
I think that's-
motorcycle.
I think it straight up is just taking your horse off a jump, because he'll like go like whoa.
Yeah, the horse seems very confused. He's like, I'm not sure why we did this.
Not to go on a tangent, my argument with most video games is that the horse does not want to be doing whatever this is. The horse in The Witcher, the horse in Zelda, the horse in this game would probably rather be in the stable eating hay and oats.
Yeah.
Probably have awful flashbacks
Yeah.
all the time.
Yeah.
Those poor horses.
Yeah, it's horrible. It's just horrible.
Taking it, yeah, there's no happy horse in game.
Yeah, you hurt your leg, they gotta shoot you.
We also, to plug our Let's Play, which is at youtube.com/IGN Beyond, we did a Let's Play where we discovered the gender of the horse.
How did you do
got
that?
real
She's
deep
a
under
girl.
it?
Oh,
We did some camera movements.
fair
Fair
yeah,
enough.
we
Fair
did.
enough.
Yeah, it's called documentarianism.
Well, on that note, speaking of balls, Dragon Ball FighterZ came out. I did a big old live stream of that with Sean Pitts. That's up on IGN proper. This game is like, I mean, we've said it before. This game is one of the best looking Dragon Ball fighting games ever. I feel like they picked a very manageable way of approaching it. I saw some people in the comments who were mad that this is sort of a step backwards technically, in that Tenkaichi and Budokai and all those are in a 3D space, whereas this is basically like a Marvel vs. Capcom type of game.
Yeah.
I think that it makes it a much more solid fighting game. But again, I'm not like a fighting game expert. But I mean, somebody was like, "This is just Marvel vs. Capcom with a Dragon Ball overlay," and I'm like,
That sounds amazing.
Yeah.
"What's wrong with that?"
This is just one of my favorite fighting games ever, but looking even better.
Yeah.
Yeah. This looks like this is, I don't know, some of the best animation I think I've ever seen in a video game. Like this is just this, we're watching it right now. If you're watching the video version, it just looks like the cartoon. It almost looks better than the anime in my head.
Oh, yeah.
Like it doesn't look like it has those dated frames of some like the filler episodes where they're like, "Oh, we're just going to reuse frames in this fight." Like,
Yeah.
Right.
Everything looks phenomenal.
You probably watched Dragon Ball Z on a CRT TV
did.
when you were going through puberty. So
did.
nothing looked right.
I did. Was that the CRT's fault or the
A little bit of
puberty?
a little bit of everything, but no, I
the
mean,
backgrounds are also really, really well.
Yeah.
and the way you kind of gradually destroy the world around you. There's a bunch of Easter eggs in there. There's some really good like just stuff that I completely even forgot about as a Dragon Ball fan.
It's got some of my favorite characters too, like Rizzo and Nappa and
Nappa's actually one of the characters.
Trumbull.
Trumbull's in there.
I don't know anything about
Trumbull's
Dragon
not in
Ball.
there. That's yeah. I watched so much Dragon Ball Z as a kid, and then I haven't really thought about it too much afterwards. But like looking at this makes me I want to play this because I'm like, oh, these were all the characters from my childhood, and now they look incredible, and it looks like I'm controlling the actual cartoon. And if it's like Marvel vs. Capcom, I can just hit buttons, and have a ton of fun.
I will say it's very rewarding for button mashers. Like I'm not great at fighting games or games in general. I'm a little bit better at fighting games if I've got a fight stick because I've got the large hands, but I like even pulling off like a regular quarter circle move with like with a D-pad or with a thumbstick is like it's just tricky. But you can just kind of like just jam on it and get some cool stuff to happen. There's a really good amount of training stuff on there too, which I think is good. Like there's the whole like I guess training mode tutorial type of thing where it'll
It has
just
like
be like
combo lists.
yeah, it'll be like, here's how you do all this stuff. And some of it, I'm just like, I can't do that. Next. And it doesn't lock that stuff completely away.
That's good.
I mean, there's a bunch of just little things to keep you busy, even if you're, getting your ass handed to you on any kind of actual competitive level. But yeah, it's
I want this treatment to now be given to all the cartoons I liked as a kid. Like I'm looking at this and I'm like, I want a He-Man game that looks like this. I want a Thundercats game that looks like this. I want a Disney Saturday morning game where like Baloo is just fighting bonkers.
Have you guys ever seen Mugen, the game? Mugen
Is that where they put in a bunch of characters? and
Mugen
different
is
things?
an open source fighting game that's like Marvel versus Capcom versus He-Man versus Popeye versus Transformers.
you can put whatever you want in the game.
versus
That sounds
Naruto
great.
versus
So it's like that
SpongeBob.
weird like VR chat client everyone's
Oh
using.
no.
It's like that if you had hand drawn like fighting animations.
Yeah.
Wow.
I found out about it because of our UK team, and they found a way to where you can gamble on that.
Right.
Game. So
There was
you
that-
just get liquored up, and you're like, who's going to win in
It
a
was a
fight?
few years ago. Was it like Freebie Bet or had some
Yeah,
very weird,
yeah.
very shady sounding name? But I mean, I do love that approach. I think that honestly, Dragon Ball is especially goofy. There is a story here that they sort of rather, I don't know, ham-fistedly, or they're like, everybody got cloned, and also they're in comas and possessed by things. Anyway, you're currently possessing Goku. Go nuts. And you're like, what?
Yeah.
And then later on, you possess somebody else. Like, what?
So are you
Are you a
playing as
bad guy?
Yeah,
Yeah.
are you clone Goku?
You
Like,
play as yourself,
Floku?
but you are possessing Goku, and it acknowledges, like the game starts with
Oh,
like,
that
you play-
so much sense.
You play as you
Yeah.
like
you play as
us.
and you are occupying Goku's body, and at one point you go into like his inner monologue, and you're talking to Goku kind of, and there's like dialogue options. I don't know if they do anything. Really odd way of approaching it, but
so
honestly,
what was your favorite conversation with Goku?
I think there was like a part where you have to like tell Krillin that his wife's not dead or something, and you can be like, you'll be fine or whatever. Or like, it sounds pretty bad, Krillin. I don't know if things are gonna be okay.
Remember that political movement? # Occupy Goku.
Occupy Goku, yeah,
we made a lot of progress with that.
yeah.
Really brought down the banks.
Yeah, but no, it's I mean this. I love this kind of game. I love it when it occasionally, and I think we're at a point in games as a thing where if you're gonna bother with a licensed game, just do it right. You know,
or just put it on iOS.
there you go. One of the
Get away with garbage.
Oh, okay, wait. I know what I want now. I want Batman the Animated Series fighting him. That looks like that.
I don't want a fighting game. I just want I want like a cell shaded Batman the Animated Series.
I want that too.
Give me that. Yeah,
I want both of them.
yeah.
Well, I'd take an iOS.
Well,
one as
everybody with the want. When are you going to give some games to the makers of Batman the
You can't
Animated
have
Series and He-Man?
You can't have the Batman until you
Bruce
finish your
Timm all
Dragon
upset
Balls.
that I'm not giving.
God, he's sitting around probably like, you know what I want people on podcasts to stop demanding my work gets turned into video games.
Yeah, so we mentioned these last episode. Nike and PlayStation partnered against all odds to make these PG2 Nike sneakers.
Available at against all odds.
They sent these to us as samples to check out. We've got a bunch of people at IGN who are like just hardcore sneakerheads who are always like, lining up outside shoe stores to buy the sneakers. They just sent these to us and we're like, what do we do with them? So I think we're gonna have them do an unboxing. Ironically, they didn't actually send us a box, which is a thing, like a shoe box has been a thing since the invention of shoes.
Yeah, that's like
so.
They send it to us in a backpack, which is really cool because like the backpack it's autographed, it's got stuff inside it, but it's also like a shoe. The shoebox is like a big part of the collector culture for like Nike heads and for sneaker heads in general.
Yeah.
And I don't know how it looks, so we can't actually do a proper unboxing. But the shoes themselves, they're Max got a size 12, so they're pretty big. But they are. There's a lot going on here. Yeah. I think if you're into like basketball Nikes, you're gonna love these. I'm more into like their street shoes, like or like just kind of like the classic Jordans and stuff like that, big high tops. So they're a little much for me, not price wise, because they're only $110 if they're not sold out immediately.
That's the tricky thing is just getting in there.
Yeah,
it's like
which sucks. Like I tried to buy the new Kendrick Lamar shoes the other day, and like I had Touch ID set up on my sneakers app, and it was just like, hey, what was your phone number again? And then the app crashed and I lost them. And it was just like, buying shoes is impossible. It's stupidly hard to do. It's harder than it needs to be. It's like harder than camping out for any video game or amiibo or anything really. Like it's just a pain in the ass.
It's interesting to me the different ways that the first parties are sort of celebrating and embracing their history. Like you talked last week about the shoes and about the Tataku toys. And then Nintendo clearly does it all the time with amiibo. And then Microsoft is sort of doing it not with like objects, but with backwards compatibility and being like, you can play your 360 games and Game Pass will give you all the stuff like that kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, I think like we might have mentioned this last week, but a lot of these companies they're at the point now where an adult man or woman has a genuine nostalgia for the stuff that has been coming from this brand for decades now. Like if you love PlayStation, those symbols mean a lot to you after so many years of using them,
Yeah, it's not even nostalgia necessarily. It's just genuine enthusiasm without any kind of like stigma to go along with it. I mean, the fact that a professional basketball player is like, hey, PlayStation's cool. That's like pretty nice that one of the jocks is sort of sticking up for the nerds there. I mean, you look at they like motorcycle brands and car brands and stuff like that. I've always been like, hey, it's a Harley Davidson jacket, it's a Porsche jacket, because people who have those things are like. Nobody ever is like, a Porsche? What are you, 12? Well,
it's also like it's hard to kind of show your love for video games for the most part without it being like really gaudy and over the top, right?
Like an advertisement.
Well, luckily we have these nice understated shoes which light up with one of two different settings.
That's true. I want to point out that these have power buttons, PlayStation power buttons on the inside of the tongue, which are about 100 times bigger than the power buttons on your PS4 Pro. Yes. Which is like an ant on an elephant.
It's too small.
Yet again. It's way too small.
Every time you take a step, it plays the 10-second opening chime of when you turn on a PS2. Every step.
And if you click your heels together, it goes PlayStation.
Yeah, it does.
Have you guys heard those like children's shoes that have squeaky noises in them that are like to keep your children from escaping?
Yeah.
What?
That was one of those up there with like the invention of the car alarm is like a thing that you shouldn't ever have put in the world.
Yeah.
Do you know like these have sensors too? So if you get in a car, it goes Ridge Racer. It's Ridge Racer.
Yeah.
Oh man. Okay.
It just scares your significant other.
So these are out soon now?
Yeah, these are out February 10th. We're gonna have a full unboxing up on IGN. Take some photos of them, make them look real good.
How many of these do you think we'll see at PSX this year? People rocking them.
Whatever it'll be an even number.
Yeah. That's awfully ableist of you, Brian. I don't know. So, real quick, I feel like we're gonna take a break and we're gonna bring in Andrew Goldfarb and Jonathan Dornbush to talk about Monster Hunter. I played a little bit, and I think it is a spectacular game for what it's going to do. It's just totally not for me. Like I completely.
A lot of people are telling me that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, and I kind of called this. I've kind of learned to sort of just be like, just. Pace yourself. And I don't want to be too negative here, but it's like, I don't know, games are for different types of people. But like when they showed the reveal at E3 and it was just like, oh, whoa, you can go down the slide and grapple hook the dinosaur and you go and you and your friends make the trap and get the other one and you ride the thing around, you go up the side of the cliff. I was like, there's gonna be a lot of UI over that, huh? And there are a lot of menus and a lot of systems and a lot of UI in play. And I mean, it's a Monster Hunter game. Which is,
I'll say what I've been hearing a bunch of people. I'll repeat what I've been hearing a bunch of people say, which is like really stick with the tutorial stuff early on. Don't skip it like I always do, and just go like I'll figure it out.
I'll figure it out. You're like, why didn't the game tell me what to do?
Like follow the instructions on the Lego a little bit, and then
you can always go back into your pause menu and reread those tutorials. Everything
true.
is there.
Ah, yes, reading. The reason I got into games.
Well, sometimes you don't know what you're doing. You have to read something.
No, it's also funny to go at Monster Hunter because I've been playing a bunch of Bloodborne and I've been playing a bunch of Shadow of the Colossus, and these are two games that are very like sparse on instruction and very big on how tactile the environment is and how much it's about like you interacting with things in a very real-time sense.
they're very show don't tell.
Yeah, but it's also like there's very much a sense of like when you hit something, it feels like you're hitting it or it's hitting you and you're dead. And like, I jumped into it felt considerably more video gamey than like, I mean, we shouldn't use the word visceral, but like that sense of actually actions having a kind of equal weight to them.
I thought you were going to say we couldn't use it because they closed down.
They did close down. Rest in peace.
Awful. Casey, should we? No, let's just do it. Let's plug that video that we made last week that's going up this week on Up at Noon.
Oh, yeah.
So sorry.
I just teed you up there. I'm just like, this is it. You good?
What's the video, Casey?
I don't even
What
know.
about the video game?
We had the co-director of Monster Hunter World, Fujioka-san, come on and do a segment with us talking about how to take down famous movie monsters.
That's awesome.
And Bowser.
And Bowser.
Hey, he was in the Mario movie.
Yeah.
A famous movie monster.
Dennis Hopper.
And so Casey brought me in on this, so the list got very goofy very quickly, and they totally went with it, which...
It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was really, really fun. So check that out on Up at Noon this week. We'll also clip it out as its own thing.
Cool. Yeah, just check out Up at Noon every week. We have a good time. We
Yeah, you
play
should do that.
with toys. We do all kinds of dress-ups and costumes. We do baked goods once in a while. It's
great.
It's a special treat.
We don't put shoes on the table.
Yeah, yes, we absolutely
like
do
you
all the time.
absolutely do.
We've unboxed Dragon Ball Z shoes. Anyway, Brian and I are going to tap out, and we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be replaced by Andrew and Jonathan and beyond.
Beyond.
I'm still going to be here. Hey, friends, we are back. Marty and Casey are still here, and we are now joined by Andrew Goldfarb
Brap.
and Jonathan Dornbush.
Don't do that, Andrew. Come on.
Why?
We've talked about this.
I'm in Brian's seat. Man, I lost a ton of weight, and I love my wife.
Oh, that was your Brian impression. I mean, yeah, he did lose a lot of weight, and he does love his wife, so that's perfect.
Thank you.
All right, we are, as we hinted before, moving on to our Monster Hunter topic. Our Monster Hunter full review is up. Joe gave it an 8.5, is that right? Or 9.5?
No,
9.5.
I was like,
9.5.
I will fight
I will
you.
stop.
Oh, no.
He gave it like a
I was
4,
thinking of
right?
Mitchell's Dragon Ball review.
The conversion from British to
Yes,
to
exactly.
US,
Pounds.
A 9.5, but in terms of here in the U.S. office, none of us have put more time into the game than you, Casey. So, but without having us sort of plebes talk about our thoughts on the game, although I will share my plebe thoughts on it. Like, what is this game to you in terms of the series?
Monster Hunter's life.
Yeah. Yeah. Monster Hunter is life.
Monster Hunter, I've put in about 80 hours into Monster Hunter World. That's not counting the numerous hours I've spent idling on it while filling out wiki pages.
Yeah.
And capturing video and doing other things for some content here.
So safe to say you enjoy it.
I really, well, when I'm not working on it, I want to be playing it. So my breaks are like, I'm going to take a break now. I'm going to go grind for this weapon.
Yeah. I like that. That's your break from Monster Hunter is playing more Monster Hunter.
Yeah. I really, really enjoy it. A ton of my friends are playing it. We have a squad of 15 people.
Nice.
And that isn't even, I think we're going to end up having about 20 people in total playing the game at any one time.
Yeah.
And squads are, if you're not familiar, are basically Monster Hunter World's answers to guilds. So and a lot of people are actually having trouble with getting online and playing. They don't know how to play with people.
Oh.
I've heard sort of like the way to actually get online has been a problem for people like in-game.
The Xbox, all the servers are basically kind of broken and are not working very well. But PlayStation has been fine.
Suck it, Xbox.
So
That's why we're here.
yeah, I haven't had issues with that, except this morning I was having a little bit of whatever. I'll talk about that later. But anyway, how you play online with friends. So you go online and then you invite a friend. You go into your menu tab and you say invite a friend, and you can pick anyone in your PlayStation friends list, and then they can join your session. It's not too hard. And then whoever posts a quest on a board, you go to any quest board and click join a quest, and you can see all the quests that are posted. Sorry for going into that. A lot of people have been asking, like, how do I play with a friend? I don't understand. That's all you have to do. If someone leaves on a quest, their quest will still be on the board. You can still join their quest.
It's like mid-quest.
That's all
You can hop into someone's.
Yeah. So mid-quest, you can go ahead, and as long as it hasn't been more than 10 minutes, you'll still gain the same rewards. It's super easy. If you're in a squad, you just log on to that squad server, and then if anyone else chooses to log on to the squad server, they'll also be there.
But when you say, does that mean you can do a quest with 15 to 20 people?
No, so you can have 15 people in a room, and up to 4 people can leave on a quest together.
Okay, that makes sense. Gotcha.
Yeah, sorry.
Oh, no,
Yeah,
no,
sort of think of it. I don't know, because I'm comparing this
I think it's 16
to
people,
sort of
if I
like
remember
Destiny, where a bunch of people can be in the tower at once, but then when you go on an actual mission,
Yes.
it's just a handful of people.
Exactly.
Strike team or
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah,
Yeah, that makes
Just
sense.
like that. But anyway, playing with friends is a ton of fun. We've just been hanging out in party chat, all talking to each other. I mean, a bunch of my friends are back in Florida, and it's cool to hang out with them again, even though we're killing monsters.
Yeah.
That is our hangout sesh now. Basically, the loop of Monster Hunter is you go hunt a monster, you collect its parts, you come back to the forge, see what kind of armor and weapons you can make with those parts, and then make those things, and then go hunt a bigger monster.
So what is it about that sort of that it's a pretty tight loop?
It is.
Like and the quests are relative. The hunts are relatively quick.
So they can be kind of long if you're totally unprepared. Like I had a friend who was on a story mission and fighting this thing called a Radobon. And this is a big monster with a huge chin, and he covers himself in tar and then rolls around in bones to create armor.
That's pretty cool.
So unless you knock off the armor, it can be kind of difficult to actually do decent damage. And when I first did it, I had a really sharp sword. I had made 100% certain that I was upgrading my sword, so I had good sharpness, and I kept my sharpness up, and I was fine. I was able to do it in a decent amount of time, like 20 minutes or so. Then I had a friend who went in and hadn't been upgrading his weapon constantly, and it took him like more than an hour to kill this one thing.
Oh, man.
And I could tell he was so frustrated, and I was like, I'm sorry, man.
Yeah.
Maybe you should just leave. And like, he's like, but it's already been 30 minutes.
Yeah.
And like, the sunk cost fallacy. It's like,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
already put so much time into it.
I mean, it's kind of cool that you can eventually take it down after that
Yeah.
long, even with a
Yeah.
worse weapon. I guess that's a really long time to fight
Yeah.
one enemy,
yeah,
though.
and to clarify, this was on an expedition, and on expeditions there are no time limits. Usually there's a 50-minute time limit.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Does it feel like for newcomers to the series, of which I am one, do you feel like it's better to play a little bit alone or with a group of friends? Like, what's the best way to get into specifically with this one?
So Monster Hunter World actually forces you to play by yourself for the first 2 hours or so. And I actually highly recommend playing by yourself for a little bit, because you can't actually know if you're being efficient with your weapon unless you're playing by yourself.
Gotcha.
Because if someone else is in there and really knows what they're doing and has a really good weapon, you have no idea if they're actually carrying you or not. There's
Yeah.
no way to see who's doing the most damage, or there are some like hunter highlights at the end of a quest that'll be like, this person did this much damage, and this person did most poison damage and whatever, but doesn't actually tell you this every time,
Yeah.
like what damage. There are no specifics.
Yeah, I played, so I'm about 4 hours into it, and I played fully by myself. And I feel like it's done a good, like the beginning is definitely tutorial heavy. And there's like a lot of information here. And like Brian and Max were talking about how that sort of turned them off, just because, they're playing through Bloodborne now, and those Souls games are notoriously lacking tutorials, like to a fault sometimes. But I feel like the big thing with this was like, yeah, it's tutorial heavy, but everything is important.
Yes.
Like everything feels like, it doesn't feel like, I don't know, in the same way the opening of Persona is tutorial heavy. Like none of this feels like they're pandering to me or talking down to me or giving me wasted information. Like all of this is a complex game.
Yes.
There are a lot of systems at play. And so I would prefer to actually learn that solo, which I like going out on a hunt and then realizing like, oh, I didn't realize that there was weapon degradation. So halfway through a fight, I need to back off a little bit and then sharpen my sword. And like, okay, cool. I understand that now.
Yeah.
Like that is now a system that I will always keep my eye on playing the game. And I do like the fact that you take down a giant thing and then you sort of just, it's rummaging through its body for different parts and bones and meat and everything. And like, I do completely understand, even though I'm 1/20th as far into it as you, and then, countless numbers behind how much you've played of the series, like I totally very quickly understand the addictive loop of this. Yeah.
Especially portable. Like you can see why it was so big on portable before this.
Yeah.
And why
You
like
just link up with
expanding
anyone.
it.
Yeah.
Like that seems
So
really
do you
smart.
think, this being, clearly Capcom said, I think this is already the best-selling Monster Hunter game?
Yeah,
Ever?
it shipped 5 million units
Yeah.
since launch.
So clearly it's super successful. Do you think the fact that it's going to be tethered to, PS4 and Xbox and then PC, do you think its non-portable nature is going to hurt the game at all?
I don't think so. Well, this is also coming. The first Monster Hunter game I played was on the PS2.
Okay.
And those online capabilities were significantly
Oh
worse
yeah, they were bad.
than the ones that are in place now.
It started on PS2, right?
Yeah,
That
it
was- okay,
started on
yeah.
PS2. That was the very first one, and I had a fine time with that. You just go online, you meet people who are kind
Mm-hmm.
and not bad, and then you just make friends with them online, and that's who you play
Mm-hmm.
with. Like if you don't have people to play with who you know that are playing, and that's what I did in Monster Hunter 3U as well on the Wii U. I just made friends with people who were playing. We're in a room, we have a few quests together, and it's like, hey, like we help each other out. We know what we're doing. Let's make friends and keep doing it. And in the first Monster Hunter, the veterans would always make it a point to play with new players. They would always make it a point to go and play as like, oh, you don't know what you're doing? Let me help you.
Yeah, let me be your Sherpa.
And
Yeah.
there's even a new system in Monster Hunter World with you can throw up an SOS flare in the middle of a quest, and then anyone can join your quest and help you.
Yeah.
And if you have your mics on, you can talk, you can ask questions, you can be like, hey, I'm really sorry, this Anjanath has really high firepower and I have like -10 fire resistance.
Yeah.
I can't get near it.
Yeah.
Please help.
And really,
And
that
someone will come
fosters
help.
such a cool community. Like
Yeah.
that's really cool.
I mean, it's all co-op. There's no everyone
PvP,
benefits.
right?
There's no
Yeah.
PvP. Everyone benefits from being good. So telling your teammate that they suck without giving constructive feedback hurts everyone in the party. So it benefits you to make your party members better.
Unless you want job security on the hunt.
That's
Oh,
true.
a few things.
This is
I don't
true.
think, I don't, yeah, I haven't read about, I haven't read about unemployment at Village, yeah.
But I really love Monster Hunter World because even 60, 70, 80 hours in, I'm still discovering new things. I've seen the credits roll and I'm still discovering new things.
That's so cool.
I still have so many things I want to do, and I'm still trying to figure out the best way to do these things. And I love when I can get meta with a game like that.
Yeah.
Even though you don't have to get meta. But
Yeah.
like right now, like, okay, like I have all the materials to make the best ice lance in the game. I don't have the money for it.
Yeah.
What's the best way to make money? Well, red pits are a type of herb that you can farm that you can sell for the most money. So you put those into the farm, so when you come back on a quest, you can sell those things. But you can also use these every day when you log in. You get a daily bonus called the Lucky Voucher, and it doubles the money you receive in quest rewards, and it also gives you bonus rewards at the end.
Oh, that rules.
So it's like, okay, like let me find the quest that gives me the most money, and then use this voucher, and then bring this item that increases the amount of valuable items the monster drops, and then let me give my Palico this extra item that lets him collect more things.
Yeah.
And now you're making a ton of money. And like there's a system like that for almost everything you want to do. You can make everything so efficient and work with your friends with strategies to do these things. And there are things like I didn't know, like the red pit thing. I didn't like think about that. Someone else thought about that.
Yeah. It
And-
kind of
I'm sorry
reminds
for
me.
going
no,
so on about
no.
this.
It reminds me of the same way, in a bunch of different games like Destiny or Stardew Valley or even Persona, in terms of like you are mentally thinking about how you are going to spend the time in your day with this game, because everything is ultimately feeding in towards a goal or one of 100 goals,
Yes.
and you're like, all right, it's almost like creating a to-do list,
Yeah.
and you're like, well, I'm going to do this, this, and this because all of them are feeding towards this one thing because I
Exactly.
want this one piece of armor.
Well, it's also just it's a way more hardcore system of something that even like Far Cry 3 or anything else does, where it's like, this just gives you so many more, you have a much wider breadth of things to harvest from and a much wider range of options after you have those materials. So I think it's like, man, like I'm almost intimidated by it, but I feel like it seems like my kind of nerdy. So like I'm actually really excited to dive
Yeah.
into it because like I can totally see myself just grinding
People
away.
are getting so nerdy about it. I have friends who are taking notes. Like, here are the items I need to look out for, and it's one of those games that you can get really, really into, and you get very rewarded for doing so. Especially when you're fighting a monster that is especially difficult. Like the adrenaline is real.
Yeah.
And being with your friends to take that monster down is amazing. Even being solo and taking that monster down is amazing. I remember like back when I was in high school on the Monster Hunter PSP, there was this the flagship monster for Freedom 2 was Tigrex. It was a really difficult monster, especially by yourself. And I remember I was trying to beat it on my friend's couch, I was hanging out, and I finally beat it, and I just freaked out. I was
Yeah.
like, I finally killed the tyrant. I finally did it. And he had no idea what I was talking
Exactly,
about. He had played Monster Hunter.
Yeah.
But I was just so excited. I just needed to tell everyone. And that's the kind of, you constantly get that feeling from Monster Hunter, and it's very rewarding and it's great.
It's so funny to me that like the two main games we've talked about on this episode have been Shadow of the Colossus and Monster Hunter, which are two games that are just ostensibly about hunting monsters. But the feeling we get when you take down a Colossi is just melancholy and emptiness and why am I doing this? Whereas the feeling you take down a monster in Monster Hunter World, you're like, this is great. Like, look what I've done. Yeah, like, you want to show your friends, whereas like I'm ashamed of what I've done.
There's an amazing Kirk Hamilton tweet that went around this weekend because those two games were both around. It was like, Shout of the Colossus, oh, I beat this enemy and I'm like really melancholy about it. And then Monster Hunter, oh, I beat this enemy and I'm going to make a hat.
Yeah, and that's the thing too. Like you can make armor and weapons and be like, yeah, I killed this thing 14 times. Here's my proof in the sword.
Yeah,
Like,
I love that. Yeah.
it's cool. It's so really neat.
Yeah.
And it gets anyone who's worried about it not being hard, I promise it gets
It'll take the gloves off.
so hard.
Yeah.
It gets absolutely ridiculous. Like I made a full set of high rank armor. I know that doesn't mean anything to you guys, but I leveled it up a ton. I'm now fighting these new monsters. I don't want to put any spoils in there, but they are ridiculously difficult.
Are they Draculas?
Like
Are they Jeffs?
they're a
Jeffs.
bunch of they're new versions of monsters, and you have to fight 2 of them at a time, and they're
sound good.
especially difficult.
I don't want that.
And it's gotten to the point like through the story, I could just bring my one best set of armor and my one best weapon, and that carried me through the game. That was fine.
Yeah.
Now it's like, well, I have -6 thunder resistance. I can't fight this monster.
Yeah.
I literally can't. I need to go get different armor. I need to figure out a way around this, or it'll just one-shot me every time.
I love that.
And I love that extra layer of difficulty for people who want it.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of fun.
Yeah. That's awesome.
I really love Monster Hunter. And if you guys want to play with me sometime, I will totally shepherd you through the game.
After DICE. Second I'm back from DICE. This is my goal. Number one on my list.
Yes, the opening of I don't know, 2018 has started off with like a bang. This has been such a cool month for games. Obviously, Shadow of the Colossus is out in a week or two. But we were talking about Dragon Ball FighterZ and we were talking about Monster Hunter. But then also a game that came out a couple days ago, which Tom Marks gave a 10 out of 10 to, was Celeste. Jonathan, you've played a bunch of Celeste. You beat the campaign.
I beat the campaign, and I've played a few of the B-side harder levels that are included.
So what is this? It's a very different game than Monster Hunter, but what is this?
No, it's pretty much exactly the same game, actually. Yeah.
Celeste is the name of a big monster.
Yeah.
Well, Celeste is the name of the mountain.
Yes.
Which many people will assume it's your protagonist. But you play as a woman named Madeline, who is decided she wants to climb Celeste Mountain. And you don't really know why at first, but all you go along with that journey, and it's through a series of very difficult platforming levels, sort of in the Super Meat Boy fashion.
Definitely.
Where they are brutally difficult, but intentionally so, and really well designed. But it's also a story at the same time about depression and sort of overcoming challenges in your life, whether it is due to depression or for just everyday life. The idea that like you can overcome something with enough go-to attitude and belief in yourself, and dealing with your own inner insecurities sometimes.
Yeah. The only thing it reminds me of in terms of like a game that couples incredible platforming mechanics with a message like that is Braid.
Yeah.
And which like both things exist separately like really well. Like it's a little bit like Meat Boy in terms of these rooms get brutally hard, and the one thing that keeps you going is when you die, you respawn immediately.
Yes.
And it keeps track of all your deaths, but in a really, and it doesn't punish you. It doesn't like put on a dunce cap, but it will encourage you. It'll be like, don't worry about dying. With every death, you get a little bit better.
No, that's what
like, keep trying.
I love the positivity of the game. Tom had said it while we were discussing it. And it's like the game wants you to be good at it. It's not trying to, like, it's difficult, but it doesn't want to be difficult to be like, haha, screw you, you can't get through this.
Yeah.
It wants you to overcome those challenges.
Yeah.
And that's also built into the narrative as well.
Yeah,
which is
absolutely.
awesome.
And the story is great. Like, I mentioned how, Braid's a super smart platformer that deals with, puzzles with time and everything and time manipulation.
Yeah.
Whereas this, it does a great job of its mechanics are pretty sparse.
Oh, yeah.
Like you jump, you can grab and climb for a little bit, and then you have the dash.
Yes.
And the dash is a one-time thing until you land on the ground, except for certain items.
Yeah.
But it's just, I don't know, like Mario before, it does so much with its very few things. And then has this incredible story where you're coming across these characters and these situations and finding more about, her name's Marty in my game because I named her after myself. So this is a weird journey her and I are going on. But it deals with like it almost nonchalantly deals with stuff like anxiety and panic attacks and depression, and not in a like Depression Quest is clearly a game about that.
Yes.
But this is just a game where it deals with like this is real.
And there are scenes like I do not want to spoil them in any way, but there are certain scenes that deal directly with those themes that are so powerful yet so simple. And I love the way that they come across in this game that is ostensibly you jumping around these crazy difficult levels. But also you get to meet a cool friend on the mountain named Theo, who, if you're watching the video version, is on some of the footage.
He's trying to raise his Instagram followers.
And what's really cool about the game is there is an Instagram feed for Theo that the developers made.
Oh, that's really
and
cool.
it is because he has a backstory of how he got up and ended on this mountain.
Yeah.
And that Instagram feed essentially follows his narrative to the
I love
Is
that.
it the crashed airplane in the background?
It has a little to do with that. Perhaps.
Be able to solve the mystery. Was it that? It was.
It was.
Yes. It was. But no, this is came out of left field. This is developed by the creator
For
of,
you, maybe.
Yeah, it came the developer of Towerfall.
Yes.
And while it visually has some similarities and some of the movement feels the same, clearly this is much different than a 4-player, Smash Brothers style brawler.
Yeah, it feels like when I played Towerfall, I loved the physics of it and the mechanics of sort of that platforming and movement. I was like, man, I would love a platformer like this. And then they
we
announced
got it.
Celeste like 2 years later.
It
works
Has it
so
really
well.
only been 2 years?
Towerfall was 2013 originally.
Towerfall came
On the
to
Ouya.
so many
The
different
Ouya.
platforms.
Yeah.
That it's like
It was
I think-
originally an Ouya, like the Ouya killer app or the
Yes.
Ouya only app.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then luckily it came to everything
Yeah,
else.
but what's awesome is there are also the super challenging. The levels themselves for the story you can beat them. They are challenging, but they are doable. Then there are the B-side levels, which you have to unlock by collecting certain things in each level, and they are hard.
Yeah.
They are not for the faint of heart.
The game it also really smartly has like a sort of a scalable assist mode to where it will allow you, if you do really just care about the story and don't want to be pounding your head against the wall, like it'll allow you to get through it without, sort of driving yourself mad.
There's a new mode that lets you. What is that mode called?
Oh, assist mode.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's so cool. I think it's great. And it's available for pretty much everything that's on PS4, Xbox, Switch, and PC.
Not Vita.
Yeah.
Not Vita.
So
Well, you
Vita.
can stream it on Vita.
Who won the time trial? You, Chloe, or Tom?
So it's ongoing.
It's Mitchell
because
right now, right?
Mitchell is in the
Oh.
lead
Yeah.
now.
What?
Yeah.
But Tom introduced me to a super jump mechanic that, like, the final level B-side
drug.
teaches
Just
you.
a drug. He
yeah,
gave you
it's just it's just Ritalin. But it teaches you this in the final level of the game, and he taught me how to do it. So that completely will change it. But
Game changer.
we figured out the first level. At least we comparable enough at the game. Can beat it in under 2 minutes. I'm sure speedrunners will do much better. Mitchell got down to 1 minute and 39 seconds, so that is the current record in the
5
office.
seconds better than your record.
Yes,
Wow.
someone remembers. But what's really cool is replaying the first level so much. I remember playing it for the first time and finding screens that I was like, I don't know how to do this. This is so difficult. And then you go back to it and you're like, how was that hard?
Oh yeah,
like
it makes you feel so good when you were like you were bashing your head against something, and when you finally figure it out and do it a couple times, you're like, oh, I have made significant progress in this game.
And that's my favorite part of most good platformers, honestly.
Yeah.
I mean,
I'm
I'm
excited.
saying like any game in general. Like the first Zelda game I played, I had no idea how Zelda games work.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And now I play any Zelda game, and it's like, oh, this is fly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I recognize the puzzles because
Totally.
I'm so
Totally.
familiar
Yeah.
with them now.
Celeste teaches you without forcing you to feel like you're being taught how to get better, but you naturally do as you get accustomed to it. And even when they throw in new mechanics that are only one world relevant, but you will just get better naturally at the platforming, which is awesome.
Like in Monster Hunter, when you keep finding the same monster over and over again.
Yes.
When Shadow of the Colossus, where I beat it because I remembered how to do it. I think that's a little different mechanic, but that's fine. Thank you guys so much. Man, 2018 has just been really cool so far.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just in terms of games, like this is good. And then we're gonna have Far Cry coming, and we're gonna
God of War.
have God of War 420. We're gonna have Labo.
Labo 420.
We're gonna have MLB The Show.
Yeah.
My year minus will be over.
Yeah.
I'm done.
Well, because of Monster Hunter,
Because you'll just keep
cap it out
playing.
after 1 month.
I mean, that was me in April. I was like, oh, Persona came out in April, so I'm just done, I
Yeah.
guess.
And I'll be waiting for Kingdom Hearts.
Yeah, we'll
Yeah.
see you
Oh,
next
yeah.
year,
Yeah.
Jonathan.
Yeah, see you in
If that
2034.
comes out.
Yeah, exactly. Casey, where can everyone find
Barrett, no.
you? Where can everyone find you?
Everyone can find me at ShinyKCD on Twitter.
Perfect. And check out pretty much our Monster Hunter wiki, and all of our tips and guides and
Yeah.
everything is.
We also
stuff
have
you follow.
an unboxing for the Nergigante, that guy in the center. If you guys want to watch that,
He looks like a scary Dracula.
he's super scary.
Andrew, where can we find you?
I'm Garfap on Twitter.
Beautiful. Jonathan?
I am at JM Dornbush on Twitter.
I made a lot of quick cuts. Barrett got really confused by
Yeah.
that. And you can find me at Mick Biggity, 2 G's and 2 D's. For Casey and Andrew and Jonathan and the dearly departed Brian and Max, this is Marty for Beyond episode 529, and we'll see you all next time.
Beyond.
Bye.
Beyond.
Bye.